Hey everybody, this is Josh Hall from the Get Level Podcast Network with another episode of the Get Level Sessions here. I just want to welcome everybody joining in. I have David Mitchell from the Performing Arts Center. Your official title is
General Manager.
General Manager. Okay, so the PAC at Kent State University, Tusk.
Yeah.
So welcome to the table here.
Well, thank you. I always, whenever I'm out at conferences or, introducing myself, it's usually, my name is David Mitchell. I'm the General Manager at the Performing Arts Center at Kent State University at Tuscarawas in New Philadelphia, Ohio.
Repeat it back to me.
And I was like, it doesn't get any shorter than that. So locally, we refer to ourselves as the PAC. I think everybody knows the PAC. But yeah, it's a long title. So just a little side note, if anybody wants to donate a large sum of money and rename the building, we're open to that. The shorter name, we're absolutely open to that.
Or do a donation like per letter, right? In the name.
However it gets us there, we're open to it.
All right. Well, just wanted to have you on the podcast to talk about the current situation with the PAC through the whole COVID quarantine, shutdown, everything here in 2020, and maybe just recap a little bit about what you experienced or what the PAC experienced, with the shutdown, quarantine, all that kind of stuff, and then kind of everything leading up to right now. And then we'll get into the future.
Sure. So on March 10th, we had our final performance at the Performing Arts Center. The Broadway tour of Finding Neverland came in. And that was a very strange day because while the show was loading in, I was actually in meetings for most of the day with the local university campus cabinet. And then we were on conference calls with the main campus in Kent as well. And, everything was going to shut down. We knew it was going to shut down that day. We were able to go ahead with that final performance on the 10th. And then we basically stopped operations. And we didn't know when the doors were going to open. It wasn't until August 25th when the state orders came in allowing performance venues, indoor performance venues, or even outdoor performance venues for that matter, to open at a reduced capacity. So, starting in March, the community went on lockdown. Everyone went on lockdown. We all started working from home. But it was, for me personally, it was Zoom call after Zoom call with industry professionals all across the country going, what's next, and trying to pivot and figure out how we do business. The Performing Arts Center was built and designed to bring people together for a shared live experience. And when people can't come together, it kind of throws a wrench in what we do. So a lot of venues were scrambling and trying to do different kind of live streams, and we didn't do that at the Performing Arts Center just because I felt that there's so much free content out there online on the internet, Netflix, Amazon Prime, wherever you want to go, you're going to be able to find content, and there's nothing that we could have done to provide better content than what was already out there. So we just started pushing things down the road. So when we shut down, I actually had a season all ready to go out. We were 98% done with the season that we would have announced in May. Season would have started in September, and we would have gone through what we normally do. We announce a season in May, sell tickets all through the summer, educate our audience on the artists that are coming in, and then we'd roll out everything in September. So I think it was probably trying to think in my head of when I realized that September date wasn't going to happen. I mean, it might have been early May. And, at that point in time, when do you pivot and start rescheduling? Because we didn't announce any shows. So in that sense, it was easier because no one was expecting something. No one had bought a ticket for anything. So we just started rescheduling shows month by month. Then we kind of in June, I guess, I did a survey. I coordinated with 16 venues around the state of Ohio, similar to size to us, anywhere from 900 seats up to 2,400 seats. And we did a consumer confidence survey because we know just because we open whenever that was going to be doesn't mean that the public's going to be comfortable coming back indoors. So we did that, and what we discovered was that at the time in June, 33% of our audience was open the doors, we're coming back right now. 33% of our audience said, you know what, we'll wait for you to open and then we'll take a little bit and we'll kind of see how it goes. Then we'll make a decision whether to come back or not. And 33% said, we're not coming back until there's a vaccine. So as a business, because that's what the PAC is. The PAC is a business, just like any other business. I mean, you got to look at the finances, you got to look at the economics of it. To know that you're automatically going to lose a third of your audience that you have no control of, that's tough. That's tough for business. And at that time in June, we still didn't know when we were going to open. So finally in August, we got the word, yes, you can go ahead and open. However, it's going to be 15% capacity. So for us, normal capacity is 1,089. 15% of that is 163. There's not a lot of that you can do with 163 seats when our audience is, kind of used to us providing entertainment and that would warrant an audience of over 1,000. So once those guidelines came out, pretty much right away, 2 of those 16 venues in the state of Ohio that we coordinated with just said we can't operate, and they closed. Pretty much most of the other ones have done staff furloughs, have done just kind of shuttered operations, because I mean it's hard to do business. I mean, any business, if you say you can only bring in 15% of the revenue that you normally bring in, not many businesses can operate.
Right. And that's what I was doing real quick, just for anybody listening, to put it on more of like a personal finance level.
Yeah.
So like for a family or an individual who makes $35,000 a year, think about only making 15% of that for the year would be $5,200 for the year.
Right.
You can't operate on that. Exactly what you just said.
You can't do it. So at the Performing Arts Center, we're in an extremely fortunate situation that we're attached to Kent State University, which is a university that is on good financial standings. Not every university around the country or even in the state of Ohio are on as good a financial footprint as what Kent State is. So we're still able. Fortunately, we didn't furlough any staff. As part of Kent State, everybody took a pay reduction, which was understandable in the climate that we were in. And now it's just trying to figure out what is this new business model. It's some people will think that you're just booking concerts, so it's just the same. Everything's the same. And no, it's actually fundamentally different because we've got budget structures in place for an 1,000-seat venue. And we're not that anymore. We're 163. We're working currently to get that capacity increase through the state up to right about 300. So if that goes through, we're a venue of 300.
But you're still only 30% or so.
That's still only 30.
Yeah.
28% capacity is what we're looking at moving forward once we start able to have live events. So when our audience is used to bringing in artists that have a budget of $25,000, $30,000, $35,000, that's not possible anymore. So I keep saying and have it in my mind that we're still going to provide the community with quality entertainment that they expect. Anytime I talk to anybody out in the community about the Performing Arts Center, I ask how their experience it is. It's like, well, we love the PAC. We always have a great time at the PAC. And usually my response was, well, why don't you come more? We understand that people, come a couple times a year usually, and that's fine. And I've just always encouraged people to come out and try something new. Maybe you haven't heard of the artist that we're bringing in, but try something new. Now, that's all we're going to do. We're not going to be able to bring in that artist that charges $25,000, $30,000, $35,000, $40,000. With our Broadway tours, the expenses, the all-in expenses, once you include labor or anything, that's over $50,000, $55,000. So that's not going to happen anytime soon. But we're still going to provide high-quality entertainment and give people a great live experience. It's just probably going to be somebody that you've never heard of before, which is fine.
I think that is fine because, you give those artists an opportunity to perform in front of a crowd that maybe they wouldn't have had that opportunity before because you were bringing in larger acts.
Right. Everybody starts somewhere.
Yeah.
And I still remember the story. I was talking with one of the board of trustees or board of regents from Kent State University. And when he was at Kent State in mid-70s, he was actually on the committee that would book the talent to come in and perform for the students. He told me that he brought in Bruce Springsteen, and paid him $750, as an opening act for somebody else. So
everyone said who?
Yeah, exactly. But, Bruce Springsteen was working gigs in the mid 70s for $750 opening for somebody else. Everybody starts somewhere. So there's lots of talent out there. They just might not be a household name yet. So we're still going to provide that experience, that live experience. It's going to look a little different in the short term.
Gotcha. So that kind of brings us up to where you guys are right now, and then a little bit of moving forward. But I guess we were talking before we started recording here that in a way I sort of represent, I guess, your average consumer of the arts in the community. And you said, well, same thing you just said a little bit. Why don't you come a little more? I'm like, well, okay, fine. Fair enough. You got me on that one. But I want to. That's the thing is I want to start coming to more shows and more events at the PAC. So moving forward, what does that kind of look like?
So we just announced our first event, which is going to take place on October 17th. And it's going to obviously reduce capacity. Things that will be required, everybody in attendance will require a face covering. We'll have timed entry, so people will know exactly when they're allowed to enter the building. They'll come in and just go directly to their seat. So the lobby's just kind of off limits, no gathering, nothing like that. And then individuals will sit in their seating pods, be 6 feet away, much like we are right now. And you'll just have little seating pods. So that's the new norm. Normally you buy a seat, you buy a ticket to a show. It's like, well, no, now you're buying a seating pod. And seating pod's going to accommodate up to 4 people. We'll have a couple that will accommodate up to 6 people for a family of 6 to accommodate families. But you're going to purchase a seating pod, and your pod is going to be 6 feet physically distanced from your neighbor. And that's the environment that it's going to be in. So it's going to be a little bit different. But I think what we've learned during the pandemic is that screens are great, but at a certain point in time, I think we're all getting screened out and Zoom calls and watching YouTube videos. Nothing beats the live experience. And I think we're seeing that play out now, that people are kind of craving that live interaction. Pre-pandemic, I would always say the PAC is about making memories with your family, friends, whoever that is, of coming together for a shared experience that is much better than, I always say, give the gift of an experience. I don't remember the presents that I got 4 years ago at Christmas time, but I can remember that family vacation that I took 4 years ago, or that event that I went with some friends to. So you're creating that experience. So that's kind of, all of that's going to stay the same. It's just going to look a little different in the short term.
Yeah, and I guess I can't speak for everybody, but, from my point of view, I'm okay with that because I want to get out. I want to go places. Like, you can't stay cooped up forever. And the opportunity to go to a live event, and at this point, I honestly wouldn't even care who was the performer.
Right.
I don't care if I have to wear a mask or sit in a pod. Can I come?
Right.
You know, and that's what I'm worried about. Can I come? And that's awesome that it's coming back.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, for me, it's just been nerve-wracking and a little bit of torture. Just, part of it was not knowing. So from March until August, we kind of didn't know when things are going to open up. But once we got that announcement and we knew, okay, we're getting close, even if it's at a reduced capacity, we're getting there. It just kind of reinvigorated me and the rest of the staff at the PAC. And it's like, we finally get back to what we do of creating experiences for our community.
Well, as far as like you and your staff, what's the dynamic between you guys? Have you guys found that you've kind of gotten closer in relationships by trying to have to be creative in how you go about things now?
I don't know. I don't think this has brought us closer, but I think we were already very close to begin with. Yeah. So within our industry and what we do, non-traditional hours, nights and weekends are a norm sometimes, and so you always come together and it's kind of like a little family, because sometimes we see our work family more than our regular family, spending so many hours at the Performing Arts Center. So I don't think that this necessarily brought us closer, because we were already, there to begin with. We did have daily check-ins. Everybody was at home. We get on Microsoft Teams and we do a video call, and it got to the point where it was just like, what's your favorite joke? Yeah. You got a joke, and just communicating that way, just to have some semblance of normalcy. But we're always looking at health guidelines, what's going on in venues in Europe? What are they doing? Because they're a little bit, at the time, we're a little bit ahead of us as far as reopening and things like that. Lots of research, just lots and lots of research, and just trying to figure out what that path forward is, which I think most businesses were doing. I don't think we're any different. Again, we're a small business just like anything else. We just have a really nice, shiny building, and and we sell fun, which is that's what we do. Yeah,
yeah. Did anybody discover hidden talents or skills doing something that, if it weren't for the pandemic, they would have never tried?
Our production manager was I don't think he discovered a talent, but was started renovating his house. He just moved in fairly recently. It's been a year, I guess, and bought a house, and so that we're gutting some rooms and renovating. Lots of home improvements. Yeah. I would love to say that I took advantage of the downtime like that to do home improvements, but I didn't really. It was just lots of research, lots of reading news articles about what else is going on in the industry, and lots and lots of Zoom calls.
Yeah. I noticed in the one article from, I think it was like a month ago, you had talked about it didn't really matter what size of a venue it was. Mm-hmm. I think you used Playhouse Square as an example. Yeah. You want to touch on that real quick?
So whenever I'll bring in tours, give tours of the Performing Arts Center quite often, lots of times with school groups. And I'll usually say that we basically have two constraints within our building. One is the physical size of our stage. We can regularly hold 4 semi-trucks full of stuff. So for a Broadway tour that comes in, we'll have 4 semi-trucks loading in that show. The tour of Hamilton that's going around now, the Broadway show Hamilton, it has 13 semi-trucks.
Wow.
So Hamilton's not coming anytime soon to the Performing Arts Center, strictly because the show is physically too big. So that's one constraint. The other constraint that we have is seating capacity, 1,089 seats. I usually say that we can bring in whoever you want to perform at the Performing Arts Center. If you wanted Taylor Swift, Post Malone, Justin Bieber, whoever you want, Paul McCartney, we could do it. we would just have to find 1,089 people that would be willing to spend $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a ticket to enable to afford those artists. So, that's not going to happen either. So we've got the capacity limit there on seats. And we bring in stuff regularly that, the average ticket's $50, $60, $70 maybe. It just depends on the show. So that's our other constraint. So when the order came in and says that, you're reduced to 15% capacity, even Playhouse Square that has 3,000 tickets or 3,000 seats, once you reduce them to 15%, they're not much bigger than we are. So, we're all kind of on the same playing field. Another aspect of this that we haven't even touched on is touring artists.
Yeah.
Some of them aren't going out. Broadway shows are not touring for at least another year.
Is that an estimate on your part, or has that been said? I just don't know.
I think it's pretty much been said.
So about a year still.
Yeah. So as I'm talking with the Broadway tours and different things that we bring in, we've just kind of written off 2021, and we're looking on the 21-22 season.
Wow.
So out into April of 22 kind of thing is when we're looking. So, so Broadway shows or large scale shows like that are not touring because the economics don't work. We've got to have at least 700 people in the building to break even on a Broadway show. It's usually closer to 800 people.
Yeah, I was going to say, if the economics don't work out for the venue to host the artist, then they certainly don't work out for the artist.
Right. So you've got economics. You've also got different states that have different health guidelines.
True.
So a tour is going to cross state lines and things are going to vary. So a lot of these major tours aren't going to be happening anytime soon. So you've got that dynamic at play as well. So it's like the whole industry is just in flux. And then if you do the trickle down economics of the hotel industry, even locally. So when we bring in shows, they're booking hotels. It affects the restaurant industry locally, but it also affects those transportation companies that are transporting shows around. It affects equipment rental companies. It affects stagehands that are used to working behind the scenes. There's this whole microcosm of stuff that usually people don't know about. And I think that's by design, because when you come to a show, you don't want to think about how hard the work was to get that show. You're coming to have fun and enjoy yourself.
It's very similar to like if you go to the movies and you just want to watch the movie.
Yeah, you have no idea.
You have no idea until the credits roll, and then you sit there for 10 minutes looking at these credits like, there's a lot of people that worked on this.
Right.
So, yeah, same kind of thing.
It's the same exact thing. So it's like we never want you to look behind the curtain and see that because it somehow ruins the magic.
Yeah.
But now, it's like you need to see this because there's a lot of people involved.
Nothing happens if it's not for what goes on behind the curtain.
Right.
Yeah.
And just speaking of the Broadway shows that we bring in, we'll have a stage crew of 50 to 55 people come in and work 8 hours before the show starts. Then you do a 2.5 hour show, and then they'll work another 4 to 5 hours to get that show back on the trucks and gone. So our work day starts at 7:30 in the morning, and on good days, hey, at 2 a.m., I'm at home and in bed. And that for the audience member, you just see, it's a 2.5 hour show, and I had a great time. I don't want you to think about all that stuff. But there's so much stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and all of that is screeching to a halt.
Yeah, that whole nothing's coming back until 2022 is going to really upset my wife.
Regarding Broadway shows and things like that. Yeah,
that's exactly what I was going to say, is because, of course, just like probably most people did during quarantine, we watched Hamilton on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
And the obsession hit.
Yeah.
And she's like, when's it coming? When's it coming? She wants to go to Playhouse Square and watch Hamilton. And I keep checking my phone. I'm like, honey, it's still, everything's canceled. Well, keep checking. Maybe it came back. Maybe it came back. So now I can tell her, from an industry expert himself.
Right.
Just chill out for a year.
Right. Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, I'm just like throwing up all over you with all this.
No, that's all. Hey, that's what we're here for.
Useless information. But, I mean, also with what we do, we work 12, 18 months out. So to schedule a Broadway show, I mean, there's a lot of coordination that goes on behind the scenes, and it's just like this big puzzle when you're routing different cities. So even now, we've got the green light to open, but on August 25th, we could have opened, but we still haven't done a show.
Yeah, because that was at the 15% still?
Right.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know I was going to be able to open until the 25th.
Yeah, so you can't have a plan.
And I can have a phone call on the 26th to say, hey, do you want to come? And we started having those conversations, but then it's still working through the logistics of trying to schedule something. And then you got to have enough lead time to put it on sale and advertise about the show. So, I mean, the timeline is just extremely lengthy on a lot of this stuff.
So upcoming events in 2020, what is that schedule right now?
So the only thing that we've announced right now, so on October 17th, we're going to have our first indoor event in over 200 days. I haven't done the exact number of what that countdown was. So at the Performing Arts Center, we decided for that first indoor event, we would kind of shine the spotlight on the local arts community.
Cool.
So we're going to do a benefit concert called Artober Live. So Tuscarawas Arts Partnership, which is our countywide arts council, did a survey between March and August with individual artists and arts organizations throughout the county. And they estimated that during that time frame, $1.2 million was lost. A lot of that can't be recovered because we can't do, I mean, just with the Performing Arts Center, we can't do more events to try and catch up. So, and the Performing Arts Center has not lost $1.2 million. That's the arts sector in the county. So Tuscarawas Art Partnership is putting together an arts relief fund. So a month-long fundraising initiative throughout the month of October called Artober, and to try and raise funds that will then be distributed out to the local arts community. So we thought that it would be great for our first event back to have a benefit concert featuring local artists, and 100% of the proceeds from ticket sales, from donations, is all going to that arts relief fund. So the Performing Arts Center is not taking a dime for any of this. So that's the first thing that we're going to do. We're going to have John Stuckey, which is a local artist, is going to painting on stage, painting, doing a piece live in front of everybody. And then we've got Zach Perillo, a local musician and artist, that's going to play a little bit solo. Then we've got Hannah with an H that is going to play. And then finally Whiskey Zulu, a local band. So there'll be a bunch of live music. We'll have art on stage, all local artists on stage. John Stuckey will be painting live. And we'll get as many people as the law will allow us into the Performing Arts Center. And then we'll also live stream it.
Nice.
There'll be a live stream. We've partnered with Reber Video, Seth Reber, that is going to produce that live stream for us. And it will be available free through our website. And we just encourage people to watch that live experience, whether you're in person or watching a live stream, and donate to the cause, because there's a lot of struggle in the arts community here, even locally.
Artober.
Artober. That was a good play on words.
Yeah, it is. So that's October 17th.
Correct.
So that was one of the things I was going to ask you before we kind of wrap everything up too, is how can the community help? How can we support the arts?
Well, I mean, first thing, that Arts Relief Fund would be huge. But then it's also just participation. We always say with the arts, with the performing arts in general, there's no takeout in the performing arts. Like restaurants, that whole industry is being hit really hard as well. And there is the option for takeout for those organizations to try and keep those businesses afloat. The performing arts doesn't have takeout, so performing arts organizations, it's donations, it's advocacy through different initiatives. There's a nationwide initiative. It's hashtag Save Our Stages. But it's a lobbying organization that just formed 6 months ago. They've never had the need for a nationwide lobbying organization for independent venues, and lobbying Congress for some kind of a stimulus relief package. So both Ohio senators have signed off in support of that. So both Portman and Brown has signed off on that. Several of our House of Representatives from the state of Ohio has also signed on to support and sponsor that bill. So, stimulus from the federal government, but then also the Ohio government as well. A letter was just recently introduced to Governor DeWine to support the arts sector in Ohio. Crazy numbers that you talk about unemployment rate. And asterisks, everybody's struggling. I get it. Every business is struggling. But when you look at the arts sector, the unemployment rate right now is 43%.
Oh, wow.
Which, that's devastating. I mean, that's disaster right there. So people that work in this sector need that support. And whether that's the state, the federal, local levels of government, there needs to be support there. So reach out to elected officials and advocate for the arts is a huge way. But then once organizations start opening up, and this isn't just the Performing Arts Center, but when they start opening up, support them. And if that's coming to an event, great. If you're not comfortable with that, find another way. Make sure you help get the word out that these events are happening. I should also say that the PAC is opening, and it's going to be extremely safe. We're exceeding CDC guidelines, and Kent State has Flashes Safe 7 protocols in place. So it is going to be a safe environment. The HVAC system at the airflows. I never thought I'd be an expert on airflows, and
well, there you go. There's a hidden
that's something I did
something new you learned,
something
right?
I did learn. But the transfer of air and bringing in outside fresh air into the PAC is top notch. So it's going to be a safe environment for people because we don't want to add anything. We are in a worldwide pandemic, and we realize that. So it's in everybody's best interest that we do things safely.
Sure. And I just, like I said earlier, from my perspective, I'm excited to be able to just go experience something.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't even know if the headliner name or whoever you're having at a show in the future matters as much to me now as it does to just be able to go.
Right. Well, so you now have the ear of the general manager of the Performing Arts Center who's actively trying to find artists to come to our stage. What's your favorite genre of music? I'm putting you on the spot.
Either rock or country.
Rock or country. Yep. Okay.
I like both.
Okay. Specific decade of, are we talking?
I like, as far as country goes, I like anything, like the newer stuff is pretty fun for me. And then, rock, probably 20 or 2000s, something like that, 2000, 2010, that kind of decade. Got it. Yeah. Duly noted. I guarantee I will try and find something that fits that. Okay. So Shinedown next year. Yeah. 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 Well, and that's always the funny thing that, once I'm talking to people in the community and they find out, what I do, they love to say, well, you should bring in so-and-so, which I love that back and forth dialogue because it's not my venue. It's yours. Right. My tastes are irrelevant. Doesn't matter what style of music or anything that I like. I'm not the one buying a ticket. So the building is there for the community. So what does the community want? Will the community support?
So I'm always looking for artist research. I guess that's something else that I learned. I discovered lots of new talent over the pandemic. And I don't remember who I was talking to somebody, and it was one of the service organizations, might have been the Kiwanis or something. They asked, they said, well, this is a serious question. Do you watch a lot of YouTube at work? And I do. But it's market research. Mm-hmm. So it's a great way to discover new talent and to find out what kind of entertainment's out there that will be a good live experience for somebody on the stage.
That's great. That's great. Is there anything else that we didn't cover, didn't talk about, that you were wanting to bring to the table for everybody to hear?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, I realize, I think I told you, before we started, I'm not an interesting person. I just have a really cool job that's fun to talk about. And I realize that I've pretty much been talking for however long we've been talking nonstop, which is very unusual for me. I'm usually not this talkative. So I would just say, do you have questions? I mean, is there any tidbits or anything about the PAC that you've, always wondered?
Well, I mean, one more question I do have, I guess, about like the COVID situation moving forward is, I mean, you talked about the capacity limits, the pods. Do you see a world now moving forward in the future where it's like it was before? Or are we always going to be somehow constricted or, in some way by this?
Right. Well, so I think history has taught us, you can learn a lot from history. So you can look back at the pandemic of 1918 and how, again, I was doing research on how did this industry react to that and what was happening. And it came back, and depending on where you were in the United States, it came back very quickly because people were hungry for entertainment. Mm-hmm. Back then, there wasn't YouTube, there wasn't screens. You couldn't have anything. It was all live entertainment. And then some places took a little bit longer. So I think we will get back to normal. And just my personal opinion, it's probably going to be 2 to 3 years before the PAC is back to the attendance levels that we were before this happened. So think back to January or something, which is, it's a little disheartening, and I don't mean to come across as doom and gloom. I think that's just kind of reality. We just have to ensure that people realize that it's a safe environment to come into the Performing Arts Center. And we're going above and beyond expectations as far as providing that safe environment, because now we don't have to, it's not just about who's coming on stage. People are going to be thinking about this for quite a while. Mm-hmm. So it's convincing them that it's going to be safe. But also, I do think it is going to have an impact on the industry as far as the live streaming components. So, which we're fully going to do. We're working on getting artists here in the fall that will probably be doing a live stream component as well. There's an at-risk population out there that still deserves access to the arts. And so we're going to do our best to provide that experience, through a screen. But for performances that occur on our stage that have an audience inside the Performing Arts Center, to be able to participate. So I think that live stream component, that might be around for quite a while.
I think that's kind of what we've seen too. For instance, like at church, like we had to quickly transition to live streaming when no one was allowed in the building or nobody was coming. And now we got to cater to both audiences because there are still people that aren't coming and they probably won't.
Right.
We did the Project Hope press conference yesterday at the courthouse. We live streamed that to Facebook because, the health department said you can't have more than 10 people attend.
Right.
Well, but more than 10 people wanted to see it.
Right.
So we had to live stream, which, with the right equipment, if you know how to do it, it works out really well. So I think we will be catering to the live audience and the virtual audience probably moving forward.
Right. And then there's other things that you got to think about on the flip side. So with live streaming, there's a whole licensing and copyright stuff
Yes.
that needs to be addressed from the legal standpoint within the music industry and the arts industry. We would never be able to live stream a Broadway show because that's copyrighted content, at least here locally. So there's legal teams moving behind the scenes.
Could you have like a what do I want to say, like a wow, my words are like an area online that where people who have bought tickets or something can log into, like with a registration code or something,
right.
and consume a live stream that way if they paid for it?
Yes. So there is, and that's what we're planning on doing outside of this one event. That'll be a free live stream. We will put it behind a paywall,
Cool.
So that it's not just open to the public. Things won't be recorded, and I think that that's going to lend itself to. I mean, part of the live experience is that anticipation of knowing, I'm going to this event and thinking about that
the night out.
And days prior to that, we've kind of lost that. I mean, it used to be like must-see TV used to be a thing where, Seinfeld was on at 9 o'clock on Thursday night.
Now when you can just record it, I'll get to it when I get to it.
Right.
Yeah.
So everything we've got is on demand whenever I want it, instead of my plans need to stop, and it revolves around this event. So we're going to provide that kind of experience virtually, that this will be a live event that occurs on our stage. It won't be recorded. If you don't watch it, you miss it. The same experience you would have if you were inside the building. So having that behind a paywall, that certainly helps with licensing things. The fact that it's not recorded, that helps with licensing agreements. But again, I guess something else I learned is about streaming licensing agreements during the pandemic. But yeah, I think that going forward, that's going to be with us for a while. But I do think people are still going to realize that, being in the room when it happens,
Oh yeah, you'll never be able to replace that.
Yeah, it's not quite the same.
Nope. And I guess one thing you probably thought about it too, is what happens if somebody pays for that live stream and they're watching at home and it crashes, or the stream, dies, or something that is out of their control.
Right. Well, yeah. So, we're used to putting on live events and everything that goes on with that, but we're also now having to learn how to produce TV shows,
right.
essentially, and the technology behind that. Things might not work perfect. I always say it's the magic of live theater. When something doesn't go right, usually it's not necessarily recorded for posterity.
Yeah.
Things are going to happen on the technical things, and you just work through it. And you hope that everybody realizes that.
This is new for everybody.
It's new for everybody. We're all not necessarily making it up as we go along, but it's adapting to the new times that we're in, and we're here for the community. So we're not trying to gouge people. We're not trying to just take advantage of anything. We're providing to provide a service, and we hope that the community appreciates it and supports it, and not only supports the PAC, but all of the arts in the county.
Well, and like you said, it's not necessarily making it up as you go, but in a way it kind of is. And I think it's awesome that you're doing that, because it's like in this time, if you're not trying to adapt and learn and grow and change and accommodate people in a new way, then you're gonna get left behind, and
right.
That's what's going to happen. So I think it's great.
Yeah, any business now is adapting to new things, and even before the pandemic, if you don't move with the times, then you kind of get left out.
Yeah, and with the pandemic, it's not like you guys are sitting around in 2019 saying, "Okay, we need a game plan for a worldwide pandemic." Yeah. Now, you had a game plan in place in case there was ever a fire or a tornado or whatever, but a worldwide pandemic, that's... Yeah.
Well, and hopefully this is the only time in my lifetime that I have to worry about it.
Amen.
Once we get past this, plans will be in place, but hopefully we don't have to implement it and do that. But I think anything that disrupts life the way a pandemic does, you adapt, and hopefully you come out better, when it's all over, because you've progressed and learned to adapt, and, it brought about some positive change. I mean, there's absolutely negative things that go along with it. But you gotta look towards the positive. And
yeah, I was going to say, how much of a restriction it is on growth and how much of an opportunity it is on growth is kind of just a matter of perspective and how you decide you're going to handle a situation.
Yeah.
And I hear, I see a lot of people saying like, oh, can we just get to 2021, get 2020 behind us? And, based on what we talked about earlier and everything, 2021 is still going to be limited. We're still going to be, we're still good. It's not like as soon as the ball drops, COVID disappears.
Right. And for the longest time within the industry, on all those Zoom calls I was on, it was, okay, we're pivoting to 2021. And I was like, why does the calendar flip? Why is that going to change things? But I think that was just our way of wrapping our heads around this. We knew that in the fall, was a lost cause, and things are going to change dramatically. But I remember in March thinking, hey, I've got a show scheduled for September 10th. That was going to be our opening show. And when are we going to announce that? When are we going to do that? And thinking to myself, if we're not ready to go by March or by September, then the world has bigger issues. And here we are in October, and that's kind of where we're at. So it's super sad that we're we've got to this point. But yeah, I'm pushing those January shows back to, one that I had scheduled in January already. Just this week, I've rescheduled to October, next October. So a year from now.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
And we're just peeling the calendar back 1 month at a time. Cause I honestly don't know when those capacity restrictions are going to be lifted. So I don't know when business as usual is going to start happening at the PAC, and when we're going to have 1,000 people in the building again. But most of that stuff that we had planned, unless we can get 600 people in the building, 700 people in the building, then economically it just doesn't work. So fortunately, the industry has, it's a great working relationship between the venue, the artist, and the agents. That just trying to be reasonable and understanding. Contracts were signed. Nobody's trying to hold anybody to those contracts. That's and good. There's, no legal things going on, at least from the Performing Arts Center's perspective. There are things that are going on in other parts of the country. But everybody's been very reasonable, understanding of the situation. And I think most of them are just ready to get back to work in a safe environment. Looking for that assistance wherever it's going to come, because as I said before, not to be doom and gloom, but the arts industry has just been decimated, and you hope that it doesn't go away, or sectors of it don't go away permanently, which there will be organizations and businesses that won't be able to withstand this, just like any business that aren't going to come back. So, that's kind of devastating for the population. Yeah, it is. But, I guess for everybody listening, when the pandemic hit and everybody was quarantined, everything was shut down, how much would you have given to just be able to go to the PAC for a show? You know what I mean? Like, whenever everyone was scooped up in their homes, they just wanted to go out and do something like, oh, I wish I could just go to a show at the PAC. Well, we have Artober on October 17th. Correct. So yeah, go. For all those people that have been waiting and waiting and waiting, we now have the opportunity. We've got this first event scheduled on October 17th. Hopefully the next couple of days from now, we'll be able to record or announce some things in November. I've got, a couple artists lined up for November, December, and, we'll just keep, announcing as we get them scheduled, and still provide that live experience. That is, I mean, I'm probably gonna, do a curtain speech that first show, and probably won't be able to get a word out. I'll just be blubbering and just so happy to just, we've been craving this for so long, and just the fact that it's, we're finally able to do it. It's super exciting, and I just can't wait.
Well, hey, that's only a few weeks away here. So
correct,
a couple weeks. So
correct.
October 17th. That is it's
a Saturday night.
Okay. Yep. Awesome.
And so people can get tickets. They can give us a call at the PAC box office, 330-308-6400. Can go online at kent.edu/tusk/PAC and purchase your seating pod.
Your seating pod. Yeah. And there's how many, I guess how many pods are available?
We have 71 pods available.
Okay.
So you think about it, that's not a whole lot.
No.
I mean,
so if I show up that night trying to get tickets at the doors.
Well, and that's part of our safety protocols. It's all got to be advanced sales. Okay. So we're not doing any kind of transactions the night of. So we're trying, everybody's keeping their distance. So you got to purchase in advance. You got to purchase an entire pod. So for this first event, it's only $10 a ticket. Extremely reasonable price. Yeah. Especially for a benefit. We're raising funds for a good cause. $10 a ticket, but you have to buy in a pod. So you've got a pod.
So either 4 or 6, right?
Right. Well, okay. four, and then if you've got a family of 5 or 6, we can accommodate that.
Oh, I got you.
So if you and your wife want to come and it's just you, it's $10 a ticket, but you got to buy a pod of 4, so $40.
Well, that's good. That means I don't have to sit next to her.
Well, there you go.
I should say it means she doesn't have to sit next to me.
You've got access to 4 seats, and you utilize those 4 seats however you want. But that's the best thing that we can do to ensure that physical distancing of 6 feet is to sell by the pod. And my hope is that hearing, it's $40, that doesn't scare anybody away, that, it's the price of a pod. It's $10 a ticket. And if, if it's a family of 4, or if people out there have created their own little pandemic bubbles of close family friends or something, and you have that. So $40 for a pod is reasonable. Moving forward, the price is probably the price is gonna increase a little bit. But we're looking at bringing in artists from Nashville and New York.
And that's expected for the prices to increase, moving forward. Because like you said, Artober it's a benefit.
Correct.
So moving forward, it'd be more like, I guess, what you were doing before, just right. On a smaller scale.
On a smaller scale. Right. So the talent level isn't necessarily changing. Everybody that we're going to bring in is extremely talented.
They might just not be as well known.
Correct. Yeah. And I guess at this point, it's where that trust factor comes in. So you've always trusted the PAC to bring in high quality entertainment. You always have a great time when you show up. That's not changing. None of that is changing. Those same standards are in place. It's just, they're not, you haven't heard this person on the radio, or, right. You might not have heard their name.
Well, and I got to say, some of the greatest, most memorable artists that I've seen at any concerts or anything like that are sometimes the opening acts of people that I had never heard of, and all of a sudden I'm on YouTube trying to find just a couple of songs maybe they've released or whatever, just to hear anything that they've done.
Right.
Then you hear them live and it's like, wow, these guys are really, really good. And
right.
You think for a couple, I can think of a couple, 5 years later I look back and say they're huge now, and right. I saw them when they were just scrubs.
Right.
And
right.
So I mean, the same way in sports, you go and you see a guy who's, maybe in his rookie year pitching or something, and, he just gets a little bit here and there. And then a couple of years later, he's in the starting rotation. You're like, I remember when that guy was just
right
out there trying to make his way.
I mean, Steph Curry went to Davidson.
Yeah.
No one ever heard of the guy.
Yeah.
Now, MVP of the league multiple times. And, huge star, but it took him a while to bloom. into what he is, the NBA caliber that he is.
But anytime, if you'd have watched him in college, you would have still been entertained by him because he was a heck of a player.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you had season tickets at Davidson University, you would have been, had a treat there.
Yeah.
We're still going to do what we do. We're, provide exceptional experiences for everybody. And I just encourage people to come on out and have a safe time, have a fun time, and enjoy that live entertainment again.
Awesome. Well, I think that's pretty much everything I had for you today, David. I'm really grateful you came in to sit down and talk about this stuff. I think it's important for the community to hear what's going on with the PAC. It's such a staple in our community. I mean, the thing is, like with Tuscarawas County, the resources and the things that we have here, because I hear too many times people say, there's nothing to do in Tuscarawas County. What are you talking about? There's so much to do here. There's so much here. It's crazy. I mean, for Kent State in general, like the fact that you can go to school from preschool all the way through a college degree in Tuscarawas County, that's incredible. You can't do that everywhere.
And you can, in the typical world, you could go see a Broadway show in Tuscarawas County. My background is in Broadway shows. I worked, with Broadway touring for, over 15 years.
What shows?
So when I actually got asked that question during my interview, it was kind of funny. Because my response was, well, name a show that's toured in the past 15 years. And my answer will be yes.
Really?
Yes. So, I mean,
yes.
Lion King, Wicked, Family Opera, Rent, Cats, Spring Awakening, Cabaret, A Chorus Line, 42nd Street.
And my wife is going to be so mad she didn't come in for this recording.
I've got so many signed posters from touring casts of Broadway shows that I have a couple of them in my office at the PAC. But then I just have boxes of them in my basement just because I've got nowhere to put them.
That's so cool.
Broadway's, that's kind of my thing. But the touring Broadway shows that we bring in to the PAC, those exact same tours, will also play Los Angeles and Detroit and Chicago and San Diego and Philadelphia and New Philadelphia. I mean, it's the exact same show, cast, costumes, set pieces, everything that's coming to Tuscarawas County. And you don't have to leave your backyard to find the best entertainment. Just come down to the PAC and we'll serve it up to you on a platter.
Yep. I love it. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
So, all right. So everybody listening, go to Artober.
Go to Artober.
October 17th starts. What time is it?
Starts at 7:30.
7:30. Cool.
And then just be on the lookout because we're going to start announcing shows. The PAC is back. I love that the Times Reporter tagged that headline when we announced an outdoor event that we had, an outdoor movie screening, which was a lot of fun. The PAC is back, and we're ready to serve the community.
Awesome. The PAC is back. Get out. Go to a show because, I mean, what's better than a night out whenever you couldn't have one for a long time? So,
right. Enjoy it now.
Yes, definitely. So take advantage of it. So that'll do it for today. Appreciate you coming in and appreciate everybody listening, and we will talk to you next time.